Well,
Hello.
it's 5:30, so Todd, we probably ought to let
Very good.
Five tell us his story.
Okay. Are we on?
Yep, you're on, and you have the floor.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Hai Cao, even though it's said there's a Cao Tai Hai, but I go by Hai Cao in America. And it is my honor to be here, and I'm humbling to tell you the story, my story from the day I left Vietnam until I build my professional life in America. So to start with, and then if you guys want to stop and ask questions, just go ahead and stop me, ask questions. You don't have to wait until I finish. Um, in 1975, before the April 30th, there was a lot of issue when the Army of Republic of Vietnam withdrew from the north, started to withdraw all the way to really close to Saigon. And the people, the atmosphere was very tense. But I was a 19 years old man. And frankly, I was born in Saigon and grew up there. So I didn't really pay much attention, just like any teenager, of politics or anything going on. So on the 29th of April, I was still going to, I still went to school during the day. And then when I came home, my parents, with a stern looking face and say, well, get dinner and then get ready. And we need to leave. So basically, I was shocked. They didn't tell me that, that's what they were doing. So I and my two sisters, the older sister and the younger sister, we pretty much just have clothes on our body and then left. So basically, my dad, uh, now my dad, this portion about my dad, he was by training, he was a captain of a ship. So he has a lot of connection with the Navy ship captain of the Vietnamese Navy, because he was one of them before he get out and work for the government, for the civil government. And they talked to him that the the government momentarily will surrender, but do not know when. So he loaded us onto his ship. His ship was really a government ship on Saigon River. If you were from Vietnam, you're in Saigon. There's a Saigon River, and the ship parked there. So we came down to the ship, and when we came to the ship, there was already quite a few people. We did not know who get ready to get on that too. But because my dad was a captain, so he knew that the lower deck would be terrible. So he told us to sit on, no matter what, sit on the upper deck. And we will sit there and waited, and then it's going to past midnight, and I think it's about 1 o'clock in the night, like the early morning of April 30th. Then the news of the surrender passed down. So that's when every captain of the ship line up and left Vietnam on that Saigon River. Um, do you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you great.
Okay. And we were leaving at that time. After the surrender, then one by one, ship, all of the ship, mostly Navy. And my dad was one of the shipmen there and lined up and then left. And as we were leaving Saigon on the Saigon River, there was shot as we come down to, if you know, Nha Bé, kind of a little bit out of Saigon into about to go to the ocean. And then shots start firing from the two sides, from the communists and from the Republic Vietnam, the Army of Republic Vietnam. But the ship kept sailing. My dad just kept going. And we went like that. And it's just terrible because the room on the deck, well, we didn't have room to move. A lot of people, I mean, thousands of people. So we sat there and there's no food, nothing except instant noodle that my mom just grabbed it and put in her sack and then took on that. We have no clothes. And this part I'm going to tell you is gross, but bear with me. People who sit next to me and all that, they didn't have they got seasick. So they made that. And because we sit just so tight, it's all over. And then it rained, and then the sun come up and it dry. And we kind of like went through like that for almost a week. And we got to the Pacific base. The Navy base, I believe it's under the US, but in the Philippines.
Yeah, at that time it was a U.S. naval facility.
Thank you. Yeah. But this portion that make everybody crying, and my personal experience until this day, 50 years later, I still remember that vividly. My dad get on the speaker and said that everybody need to get ready to salute our Vietnamese flag, because he received the radio that he had to lower the flag in order to get into the base. You cannot go there with the the yellow and three red stripe and go in there. So he performed salute the national anthem and lower the flag and take it down. Everybody cried on the ship. And this is a side story. My dad valued that flag so much that when he died in 2009 in Seattle, before he died, he said he wanted to put that flag, cover him in his casket. And until now, I still get emotion when I talk about it with my dad. My dad, the way I look at him, he was a very strong mind. Like commander of the ship, 5,000 people that he didn't know. And he made some decision that amazingly, there was one older lady, for some reason, died. And people asked him what to do. He said, throw it in the ocean. Can you imagine saying that to the family member? And so he explained to them, he said, I had no choice. I got this many people, and the only way if I bury in the sea. That's another thing. And then a lot of things he did that give me the respect for his commanding, for his leadership. And when we came to the Subic base. When we get out of the ship, get into the base, the first thing they ran to the computer system. And they look at my dad and they say, "You're supposed to be here 10 days ago." And that's true. My dad was on the list to be evacuated by the U.S. Embassy. But he refused to go because 10 days ago, there's really nothing to warrant him to leave Vietnam. So they left. They quickly get us on the bus to get on the, I think, C-130 to go to Guam. But before that portion, when I get to the Subic base, my body with all kind of dirty, I told you, so I need a shower and need to change clothes. So they have a bunch of old clothes, and you go select which one that fit you. And then here's another thing. We went to, like, a public shower. The Philippine guy have a hose, and it's up to you. You can take off your clothes or wear your clothes, but he just spray, male or female. And that's how you get a shower. And then when we done with that, we'll get a new clothes to us, but it's clothes from the Navy, whatever that people donated. And then we went to Guam, and that started a good life right there. Because when we arrived at Guam, we were temporarily housed in the hotel, and it's nice, and then it start having good food and all that. And then in like 2 days, we were on another plane, this Sunday, on the Boeing, I think, transport us all the way to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. That's a refugee camp set up for the Vietnamese refugee to arrive. That's in Arkansas. And when we came there, we live in a barrack because of the military barrack in the Fort Chaffee. So we stay in the barrack, and the normal process is you stay there until you find a sponsor or somebody agree to sponsor you, and then you get out. My uncle lived in Seattle. My uncle is my dad's oldest brother. He had lived in Seattle way before that. He had lived in Seattle since 1963. He used to work for President Diem, and after President Diem was killed, he stayed back in the U.S. as working some sort of for United Nations. But he sponsored us before the actual collapse of Vietnam. So when we arrived at the refugee camp for Chaffee, he told the officer there, and they searched it, and they notified my uncle. And in a couple of days, my uncle came over, and they released us to my uncle. So at that time, we were so happy because we just, like, the journey from Vietnam to Seattle was really fast. We arrived in Seattle on June 3rd, 1975. So that's a record fast. When we arrived in Seattle, there was nobody there, not yet. They're still in the refugee camp being processed. So the minute I arrived in Seattle, my dad and my uncle belonged to a Catholic parish. So he took us there to introduce us to the parishioner, there, the people in there. And there was one lady. Her name is Laurie, and she was an English teacher in high school. So she agreed. She kind of volunteered to be like a teacher, a mentor for us in English. So every day I start learning English from Laurie. But because we were not refugee, we were not classified as refugee, but we were classified as family immigrant, family sponsored family. So we had to find job. So Laurie, the English teacher, looked for us, for me, in a school, community college, a job as a janitor, working on graveyard shift from 11 to 7 o'clock in the morning. So a week after I got to Seattle, I got that job. So I worked there, but I forgot to tell you, when I left Vietnam, I was a sophomore of law school in University of Saigon back then. But when Laurie found me a job and I started there, and then I learned English, and then I want to go back to school to continue on with my education. So I took the test, they called TOEFL test, the English test for non-English speaking students. And I passed that. So in 1976, so I arrived in 1975, 1976, I started my school as a freshman at the University of Washington. And then I studied mechanical engineer. And after 4 years in 1980, I graduated from University of Washington. I went to work for Joe Electric company in Louisville, Kentucky. They have a major appliance business. They're a big major appliance, they build refrigerator, build all kind of appliance in the house appliance. I worked there, and then at night I went to school for my master's degree. And after a year, they transferred me to San Jose to work for the nuclear division. So I continued my master's degree. So I got my master's degree in system engineering at San Jose State University. And then I continued on, no more education after that, and continued on with working for GE, and later on with Harris, and on, and ended up working for Aerojet, first as a project engineer, and later on as a senior program manager, and all the way to I stayed with that company until I become like a member executive staff, to be all the way up, and then I retired from that company in 2021, and decided to go into politics in 2022. And that's my escape on my journey from Vietnam to America. In a synopsis, in a short summary. Any question from you guys that you want to raise?
Well, hi, I'm just pleased that you didn't have to spend that much time in a refugee camp. I'd heard reports about people wound up at Fort Chaffee for a very long period of time before they could move on. And I'm glad you didn't have to spend too much time at Subic Bay and got moved on to to Guam. In fact, the squadron, our wing that was at Clark, airlifted people from both Subic Bay out of Cubic Point was the airfield there, and out of Clark to Guam, and then went from there contract air to the States, and it was a little more livable. They were putting 140 people in the back instead of over 200, so you had a little bit more room to move. But it wasn't like what you flew from Guam to the States. But I'm glad you had a family already here that you didn't have to spend too much time at Fort Chaffee.
Did I say did I remember correctly, Ben? Because I think it's a C-130 when
Yeah, the
they
C-130s. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I remember I left Subic Base in C-130. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, there were a lot of people, and they had camps for refugees both on Clark and down at Subic Bay. And the people were airlifted from there to Guam by the military, and then after that they went flew contract.
yeah, Rick has a question, Ben.
Hi, have you remained in contact with Laurie?
Contract with who, Rick?
Laurie. Your
Laurie?
tutor.
Oh, Laurie?
Yes.
My English teacher, unfortunately, she passed away in 2012.
Oh,
She was close with my family. She and her husband were both out, was a Navy officer. I did not remember what rank he was, but at the time we arrived in Seattle, he was still active in the Navy. And unfortunately, I still don't remember whether he was in Vietnam or not, but they were like an angel. They were really, really took care of us, both of them.
that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to believe that. I'm sorry, but I say this, if it offend you, then I'm sorry, but I really believe in the plan of God. My mom taught me that too, because you cannot believe how we could survive from the trip from Saigon River to the Subic Base. And my parents always taught us that there's a plan from the man up there. So you just have to follow the plan.
Probably right.
Thank you, Rick. Well, and I see that too, because my uncle went to the same parish with Al and Laurie, but they were not like buddy or friend or anything. But it turned out that Al and Laurie were helping us like a family member.
That's great.
And if you don't have any question, I want to move from a different aspect of my life. Everybody, when I first came, everybody told me that, you have to work hard, especially when I finished from college. Oh, speaking of college, I'm going to sharing you with my unique experience in college at the University of Washington. I was junior year, and I took the class called thermodynamics. And not really long in the junior. It just I finished sophomore, going to the junior year. First quarter, I took thermodynamics class. So the thermodynamics class is usually like lab work and calculation. So the final exam, I did all the calculation. I did the experiment in the lab, I did taking data, everything correct, calculation correct. But when I know it's correct, but when I get the result, I saw a big F. And my lab report, that what you write, you wrote about the experiment. I mean, red, correct everywhere. So when I received it, I walk into the professor office house. His name I still remember. They say Paul Dupuy. He was a French guy. He I make an appointment on his office hours and go in there and I meet Professor Dupuy. My calculation is correct, but you give me an F. You fail me. And you know, those are grammars and spelling and all of those. And he looked at me. You know, back then in the 80s, that you still allowed to smoke. I still remember he sit back on his chair and he have his pipe. Young man, when you graduate from this, you go to apply for a job. Will you tell your company that, oh, because I say I'm Vietnamese, I just got here, I didn't learn English very well, so give me cut me some slack. So he say, when you graduate, you go apply for a job, will you tell your employer that give you only pay you half salary because you're Vietnamese? And I didn't finish. I was, you know, shocked. I didn't answer. And he said, get out of my office. I was so angry, upset, but I made my decision at that moment. I determined I will prove to him my capability. So when the time to re-register the course, I registered with the same professor. I went to work with my English, Laurie, my English mentor, and help me. And I said, I want to, you know, prove with this professor that I'm going to get a, you know, at least a B, but my goal is an A, perfect. So help me, Laurie. She said, okay. So every day she trained me on English. So the next one, the second quarter, I got every classmate of mine say, you stupid Hai. Why did you go back to? There are so many other professors. Why go back to that guy? Every one of them say he's a racist. Why you go back to that? I said, I don't care. I want to prove to him I can do it. Okay. So I went back to him and he looked at me in the first day of the class. He looked at me like oh, you still want to show up here? In the end, I got like, you know, 4.0 is maximum. I got the final exam on that class is like 3.8. So he called me into my head's office and said he really give me a compliment and say, explain to him why did I do that. I say, it's very simple. I just want to tell you, like the English saying, when there's a will, there's a way. I want to prove to you I can do it. That's it. I don't run away from failure. He became my best reference professor when I applied for GE. I give him a reference. He wrote in the reference letter that this guy will not say no. So that's another story. But the reason I share that story, because years later, even he told me that back in, like, you know, before he retired, I think in the late 90s, about 99, 2000, went back for his retirement party. He remembered that he said, if I said to another student now, I probably got executed. I said, no. I took it as a good motivation. So that's a little side story I want to share.
That's a great story.
And by the way, I kept telling my children when they're growing up that just have to do your best and don't think that don't keep thinking that you don't get what you want because you are being discriminated. You may not get what you want, not because you are being discriminated, but because you are not good enough. And they said, so Dad, one of my sons said, Dad, so you don't think that they're discriminating us? I said, I do not say that they don't. But I'm telling you, you have to go beyond that and make them that they cannot do it because you're so good. So I told them, I said, don't think that Aerojet hired me, the only one in the senior management, because they just want to be complying with equal opportunity and all that. If I don't make money for Aerojet, they don't hire me for a minute. And the same thing that if I'm as good as a Caucasian, they hire a great Caucasian. Why the hell they have to hire Vietnamese who speak English with an accent? So I have to be better than the Caucasian. But they cannot afford not to hire me. That's how I teach my kids. Don't quickly think that you're being discriminated. And that I have lived all my life like that. But they hire me because of my contribution, not because of my skin color.
That's great, Hi. I'm glad you have that attitude. I wish more people did. It'd be a lot healthier. You were telling me earlier, if we were talking for the program, about you're making some plans for 2025, which would be 50 years since you left Vietnam. Would you like to share something with us about that?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Ben. Earlier this year, I was invited to the what do you call that? Texas Tech University. They have they call Vietnam Center. So they did the commemoration of the Paris Accord, 1973, because 1973 to 2023. So they told me that they want to do something for the 50 years of the Vietnamese refugee arrived to the U.S. So that means 75 to 2025. So I have been thinking about looking for the successful Vietnamese refugee who came here and successfully re-established themselves in this society. And by talking with Ben mentioned earlier there's a Vietnamese doctor that came here and were able to restore his doctor career. And there's another pilot. So and was able to do the same thing. So I'm thinking that not only those, but so many successful stories that we can just light up, but particularly those veterans in the world from the Vietnamese army, from the Army of Republic of Vietnam, and if they were successful here, I'm not talking about those who grew up here. I'm talking about those that came from Vietnam and became successful here with their career. and we can just make a program together, and we go to put on a show. I mean, not a show, like a presentation. That would be good.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, the physician that I was telling you about, he was actually a surgeon in Vietnam. He became a anesthesiologist here, and the pilot I was talking about, Todd, they're part of the Vietnamese community here in the Pittsburgh area. Todd may be able to contact some of those people, so that'd be good. There were a number of people there who have been very active in the workforce and culture here in the Pittsburgh area. And I would think that you would have the same in the Atlanta area where you are.
Actually, not, Ben, because the people who were here, I've been here for 10 years in Atlanta, about 9.5 years, almost 10 years. They were, for some reason, they were not. There were one famous guy here. He was like in a special force. He was like a contract for the U.S. Special Force, and he was captured by Hanoi. All very early, and then they didn't even release him until way past 75. So he spent like 30 years in the prison in Hanoi.
Oh my!
But he survived, but he was not like restoring his because he really by the time he got here, he's too old to, and he didn't really have a special professional career like the physician or on the pilot or anything. He just was like a special force.
And which university is hosting that?
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech in Lubbock?
Yeah. In
Okay.
In Bullock. Texas Tech University.
Yeah, Texas Tech University. It's in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah. That they have they call Vietnam Center. They
Yes.
want to establish themselves like the depositor of all of the Vietnam war history and documents and all of that.
Yeah, we've had some folks there on the BBC program before. Yeah, they're good people. And recently, there's another organization I've been in communication with that had done a lot of mission trips in Vietnam, predominantly medical mission trips. And they chose to archive all their information with that Vietnam Center at Texas Tech.
There is a newer one. They call Oregon University of Oregon. They also are doing like a Texas Tech. They also create a Vietnam Center, but University of Oregon.
Yeah, they're in Eugene, Oregon.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
But
Well, anything else from your becoming acclimated to being an American, because you're an American now, as well as a Vietnamese heritage that you'd like to share with us?
I'm glad you mentioned that. I think the most I have observed even now for Vietnamese just arrived here to the Vietnamese American who grew up here, the cultural difference. And also I have observed a lot of parents, even parents who live who came here a long time, but still struggling with cultural difference, basically in Vietnamese culture. If you are the dad or a higher rank, you say something to the younger son, kid, or student, you expect no talk back. You say jump, jump. No question asked. You don't allow to ask. Parents are God. They have to be right, always right. And the kid grew up here or was born here, they have that problem with, like, there are so many Vietnamese family that the grandparents still live with the parents and they still with the grandkids. So when the grandkids talk to the grandparents still have that mentality that if I say that you do, you don't talk back, don't question nothing. That has been the struggle in so many Vietnamese families. So I have been trying to explain to so many family that I am like I call myself a transitional generation. That yes, I was born in Vietnam, but most of 3/4 of my life now is in America. Plus, I went to school here. I worked in an American company. I adopted a lot of American culture. So I explained to them that you just have to accept kid go to school, your grandkid go to school, now come back asking the question. I just recently have a situation that a friend of mine kind of like complained about his daughter. I called her a friend, but he was younger than me. He came here not so long ago, but his daughter was born here. So his daughter went to school and she's about 12 to 13 years old. So when he and his wife disciplined the daughter, and they say, like, I gave you, like, I'm your parents, I gave birth to you. Mom said, I gave birth to you, so I expect you to do this, do that. And the daughter said, I didn't ask to come to this life. You did. You brought me to life here. So don't tell me I have to do it because you gave birth to me. I didn't ask you to give birth to me. You did. He was beyond himself. And his wife also, so he called me up and said, how can I do it in this case? So now, we got a lot of the cultural difference between the two cultures. So I have to explain. I say, the kid went to school, or kids go to school, they get that education. How baby was made and all that. So now you have to talk to them in a different way. You don't tell them, you don't keep telling them, I gave birth to you, I have the right to expect you to do this, do that. You have to persuade them. He's struggling with that. When I say that, I say, me, our parents hate to talk, kind of like persuade the kid to do it. Well, that's the culture in this country.
Yeah, well, actually, it's changed here too. 19th century, even earlier 20th century, whatever the parents say it went. But in the last 7,500 years, this respect for parents and respect for authority has diminished greatly in this country as well. And I agree, it's a struggle.
Yeah, but a lot of Vietnamese parents, even though they are Vietnamese Americans now, they have not been able to adjust to that difference. And neither to me, it's a bad habit. is that Vietnamese Americans, they don't value their votes. A lot of them came here after live with the communists for a long time. So they got used to the communist system, that it doesn't matter what you do. The communists will pick the representative for you. So their vote, people vote is useless. So they came here, and when they come to election time, I tried to explain to them, you have to go vote. Most of them say, why wasting my time, because I have to go to work. I don't just skip work. Most of them do the nail thing, you know. So I rather make money than go vote. So I have to explain to them how important that is to go vote. But you know, that's something I say. People risk their life for the right to vote, and you have the right. You came here and you got the right to vote, and you don't exercise your right.
Yeah, we had a recent example in the news here in the Pittsburgh area. There was a community for the borough council that two council members run against each other and had exactly the same number of votes. And so they wound up casting lots basically to decide who won. But if one more person had voted for either one of them, that one would have won.
Yep.
So, I mean, you know, that just illustrates why every vote counts.
Yeah, I also try to explain that the other benefits that we do as a citizen is go vote, so that we can have the leverage, especially if it come from an ethnic group, that you have to go vote. So they look at the vote and they say, okay, 2% Vietnamese American or 20% or whatever. So that becomes your leverage. You go talk to your candidate or your politician, and you carry some weight. Versus right now, 2%, and they look at 2%, they say, why bother?
Well, I'm glad that you're upholding, you know, the need to be a responsible citizen and vote. It's very important.
Yep.
You know, irrelevant of where you are politically, it's important that your vote is cast.
That's right. That's right. And that's because we live in this greatest country on earth. You know, you don't cast your vote, then.
Good. Anybody else have questions for Hai before we press on? I appreciate Hai coming to tell his story.
Rick.
I just wanted to ask you, Hai, when
Yes, sir.
when the convoy of the Vietnamese ships you were on was
Yes.
leaving, was on the Saigon River, heading
Yes.
to the ocean, you said they were fired on from both sides.
Yes.
Did the ships return fire?
No.
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 Was anyone hurt?
My ship, there was nobody hurt.
Nobody hurt. Good.
But on one ship, there was a man who was very famous in Vietnam, but we didn't know until we got to the U.S. because we didn't. No, I took it back. My dad talked to the other on the radio, and he knew that our ship didn't have anybody die, but on the other ship he was a newspaper publisher. His name is Chu Tử, and he got hit and he died, and they had to do the bury in the sea, like the old lady on my dad's ship. Yeah.
And how many ships were there? Do you know?
I had to venture to say, like, most of the Navy ship, not like the big plane ship, but most of the Navy were lined up to leave. the ship from the Vietnamese Navy. So I don't know how many.
It's all right. Thank you.
I think that they return in those Navy ships. They also have private commercial ship, but they're all lighter. They kind of like mixed with Navy.
Yeah. That had to be quite a sight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you were on a big enough ship to go all the way to Subic Bay. That's a good trek
Right.
from Saigon to Subic Bay.
My dad's ship was also not his ship. It's a government ship.
Right.
Because at the time that he was no longer a captain for a long time because he left. He worked for Saigon Port, Saigon Harbor. He was like, director of Saigon Port, kind of like his job was like, get approval for what ship in and what ship we get out and when and all that. So he was not a ship captain for quite some time. But surprisingly, he still remember. I guess just like driving a car. You don't drive a car for a while, but you still know how to drive the car.
Oh, that's great. Any other significant things from your story you want to share with us, huh?
I just want to share another thing, that the reason that I involved in politics. This is my intimate telling with you guys. Like when I was in Vietnam, born in Saigon, grew up, I didn't pay any attention to politics or anything. But I did took a class called Political 101. And the professor who taught that class, I met him again in Seattle when I came to Seattle. Not met him in the USA. When he came to the USA, he worked for Harvard University. So then I found out that he was like a PhD for political science, and he was working to restore democracy, not reform, but restore democracy in Vietnam. So he invited me to join his party called Đại Việt Nationalist Party. But that party had been in existing since 1939. And I have been in that party until now. And right now I'm a vice president of that political party, Đại Việt Nationalist Party. And the vision and the objective that is to bring freedom of election, freedom of vote, human rights, and democracy for people in Vietnam. And that's the sideline that I've been working until I retired. And I decided to go into the mainstream American politics for me to have a chance to convince and lobby the American politics and the political arena, because a lot of people, even in different administrations, that they did not really understand how evil the Vietnamese Communist Party, or for that matter, Chinese Communist Party are. I went, like in May of this year, I went to the State Department. I met very young political advisor, political think tank in the in the State Department, but they have no idea. They have no experience with communists. So by talking to them, I basically have to share with them and tell them how devious the communists are. And that's the reason I want to pursue my political career, to give me the chance to have a platform to talk to American government and help preserve this country, because I do not want this country to fall apart.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you and your organization succeed in bringing democracy to Vietnam. It'd be wonderful. I shared with you about the lady we met at the DMZ. Rick Irisman is on here, and he probably heard her too. She and her husband had met us there at the DMZ. And I don't know exactly what they did in Saigon. I kind of got the impression they were in some sort of a business endeavor there, and were visiting. And she told us, well, you come back in 10 years and the communists will be gone because we're going to own the place. And, my feeling is I hope you're right with your entrepreneurship that you have, that whether if you do it economically, politically, or however you do it, that if you can bring democracy and freedom and liberty to the people in Vietnam, that would be absolutely wonderful.
They were so thrilled to meet those 6 Vietnam veterans. They were overwhelmed with the contact they had. They were so thankful for us having been there.
What language did they talk to you, Rick and Ben?
I don't know what their names were.
No.
The woman's pictures on 3-4 issues ago of the
she's on
Veterans
the
Breakfast
cover
Club magazine.
of the VBC magazine about two issues ago.
My question is, how did she communicate with you, in English or
In English?
Oh
yes.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah,
she spoke very good English.
Very good.
Very good English.
Oh
yes.
Yeah, we thought.
Wow. Well, she may be optimistic.
Oh, I'm optimistic. I mean, they're hard. Well, as you well know, they're hardworking people with a strong work ethic, and very industrious, very smart. And the only thing holding them back is a very corrupt communist government. So I hope you succeed.
Well, I hope so too, but it's not an easy, not like walk on water. Or
No.
It's that last week they were. You guys aware that last week there was APEC, Asia Pacific
Right, in San Francisco.
And the president of Vietnam, Võ Văn Thưởng, attended together with Xi Jinping from China. And what happened was, in Vietnam, the APEC meeting started on last Wednesday on the 15th of November. On the 14th, the police, similar to the FBI here, arrested one of their superstar representative. Their representative already were handpicked by the Communist Party. But this guy, his name is Lưu Bình Nhưỡng. He was a different animal. He had a PhD in law. I don't know if it's in Vietnam or Russia or somewhere, but he's a college professor. He's a professor of law school in Vietnam. At the same time, he was a member of the Congress of the communists there. And he constantly criticized the government, the Communist Party, the Vietnamese Communist Party. And he confronted the head of the so-called police department big police, central police, and they arrested him the day before.
Not freedom of speech or freedom of expression.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point. And anybody who dare to speak against them, arrest.
Yeah.
So there's no freedom there. If you go there, if you live there and you don't say anything and you just enjoy life and don't even mention to government or anything, then it's okay. I had a show on YouTube with a host. Her name is Rachel Lay. And if I go on her show, if I say something that's on YouTube, but if I say something offended to the communist government, they told Google, YouTube to suspend her account. Like, a warning for 2 days, repeated a week, or all that. So they listen to everything, even here.
Oh, yes. Well, when we went to Vietnam, and Rick and I both knew that, you get on the Wi-Fi in the hotel or any communication that you made in Vietnam, just assume you're being monitored. I mean, that's just the way it is. So don't say or write anything that you don't want anybody else to know. It's a sad world when you don't have freedom of expression. You got people, basically spying on you.
Yeah.
Don't take pictures at the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum.
Oh, we almost got a guy. He was taking photos, in Hanoi at that mausoleum that they have for Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah.
They wanted to confiscate his camera, and oh my.
Yeah, big time.
What's the reason, Rick and Ben? What the reason they do not allow to take picture of?
They prohibit it for whatever reason.
Was there a sign, or we didn't see it?
Well, our guide had said don't take any pictures there, but he was taking some. But our guide managed to talk to him and talk him out of it because he didn't want to lose. He would have lost all the video footage that he had done up to that point.
This is all part of the documentary, so that's why he did it.
Yeah, but yeah, but any rate, yeah, they didn't want to take any photos there for whatever reason. So it's the old thing. You don't have freedom of action either.
And in that country, even as we speak right now, the corruption is terrible.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard about that, but I ain't never been there. But my oldest son, I got 4 kids. Every one of them went back to Vietnam. All my 4 kids went back to Vietnam. And my oldest son went back with an American friend. That was like 10 years ago. And they, on his way in, they asked for money. And my son said, I don't have any money. They say, you don't have money? He said, no, I use credit card. I don't have cash. So they just said, then go. And on his way out, exit Vietnam, they asked again. And he said, I don't have it. They didn't do anything to him, but they did ask. They asked not very explicitly, but do you have any gift for me?
Yeah, otherwise known as a bribe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the corruption's awful.
But interestingly, he went with a Caucasian friend, American. They did not ask. His name is Paul. They did not ask him. Yeah. Because my son understands Vietnamese. So they asked my son in Vietnamese. And then the second time, he, like 1 or 2 years later, he came back again with a different American friend. and they did not ask that. And then when the third time, I think it just last year, he went back because by last year, he was a big shot with T-Mobile. So he came back there. He came back here. He told me, he said, Dad, they do treat me like a king.
Oh,
So
well,
to my kids, there's nothing on the surface, like material life in Vietnam. My son, all my four kids say their life in Vietnam is no different than America. Every single young person has a cell phone and blue jean, and their life is just like American life. They don't see the side of being a poor country.
yeah. Well, it's very different from when we went in 2018. They're much more affluent people are in the South, even though there's still a lot of poverty in the South than in the North. So that tells you the difference is the level of affluence between the two.
So 2018 is very recent, only 5 years ago.
Right.
So it's still visible, the difference between North and South.
Oh, yes.
Oh. Yeah, I hope before I die, I got a chance to go back.
Well, I hope you do too. And hopefully it'll work out for you where you can do that safely.
I hope so.
Because there has been a lot of healing there. I mean, I was pleased to see how far the people there have come, but as industrious and as smart as the people are, on the other hand, I wasn't surprised, but they need the freedom. That's what they need.
But did you guys, when you there in 2018, have you came in contact with any police guy or
No,
official government or anybody?
no, that really didn't want any, but not as such. Other than that one encounter at Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum, when the guy with that did a video documentary, uh, was our only such contact.
So the gentleman who wants to do the video, is he on your group, on your team, or he's a different group?
Yeah, no, he went with us, and in fact, he did a documentary. It's shown on the local PBS station, and you can actually buy the documentary now on from Amazon. It's on Blu-ray,
Oh,
DVD.
okay. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's called "We Left His Brothers." Or if you go onto Amazon
Yeah,
and just put in their search window, "We Left His Brothers," and it'll come up, and you can watch it for $3. On Amazon Video, or you can
oh,
buy the DVD for I think it's $25, something like that.
I see.
But you can watch it on there for like $3 to watch it one time.
Okay.
And that young lady at the bridge at the DMZ is on there too.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Also, the North Vietnamese guy that was a soldier met Andy, a wounded Vietnam veteran, and
Yeah.
they met and embraced.
The Vietnamese also was a veteran.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, he had his war wounds too,
he
because
showed.
he looked at the guy that was with us, who was seriously wounded in Vietnam. So he's got a lot of scars on his face as a result. And the man comes up to him, and he couldn't speak English, but he knew a little bit, and he said "war" and points to it. And then he pulled up his pants leg and showed where he had a wound, the scar.
And that's in the documentary.
Yeah, and then they just embraced each other. They were two soldiers, doing what they were called to do, but by different governments. But everything was fine between the two of them. It was a very touching scene. You know, because this man had been in the North Vietnamese army. He was a North Vietnamese regular.
Mm. He is not the called National Liberation Front soldier.
No, no, he was a Vietnamese regular from the
He was
North.
a Vietnamese regular from the North. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, hi, thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else have any questions before we sign off? Todd, you got any questions?
He's packing.
He's packing, getting ready to go on Monday.
Yeah. Have a safe trip, Patty.
Okay. Well, hopefully he'll come up because I need to get him to transfer host back to me so we can sign out and he can stop the YouTube. But I think I can sign out from here. Well, good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And
Is I really appreciate the opportunity to tell my story with the war hero, you guys.
well, good. Well, we're not war heroes, but